So yeah, they asked me to add this first slide, so I had to it's a couple of spoilers there. You don't want to see that. They also asked me to add the second slide, and I want to have like a round of applause for our sponsors for enabling this conference today. And like, you would think, because they sent me the slides, and you would think I'm just going to ignore all the sponsors, like it doesn't matter. But I just took a little glance at them, and I found something interesting. Like one of them stood out for me. It's this one. Stack Overflow, and I was imagining, how does that look like? And I imagine it's something like this. Like someone asks a question, all the answers are like, yeah. Yeah. So, sorry if that was a bad joke. So I have some good news and some bad news for you. I'm going to start with the bad news. So we're going to have like 10 minutes of silence for this failed champion. All right. It's going to be good times, right? But I have some good news. You know, like everyone has their superheroes, their heroes. You have like your Batman, Spider-Man, Iron Man, whatever. My new hero is this guy called Remove Node Modules Man or whatever. Like, this guy has a proposal for Yarn to get rid of node modules. Yeah, like he's my new hero. But the weird thing here is he made a 14 pages RFC. Like it's literally a PDF. I downloaded it, like took a glance at the first page. I don't understand shit there. But 14 pages. If I had contributed something this awesome to humanity, to like the development world, like removing node modules, here's what I would title that pull request. Like, yo, I got rid of merge it. Or this would be the second title. Here's how millennials can save disk space. Merge it. No questions. Or the last one, this is my favorite. I would title it like this. More like no modules, am I right? And then merge. All right. So I did a bunch of talks last year. I was talking about GraphQL and something connected to GraphQL and React and stuff. But I decided to take a break for the summer just so I get my like thoughts together and like have something else to talk about. And this was my vision of my summer. So I thought I'm going to code a lot. I'm going to, release a new product. I'm going to do something awesome this summer. That's why I'm taking the break from speaking. But that's my vision of the summer, and this was the reality of my summer. And you would think, oh, yeah, that's because it was sunny outside and you were sweating from all the heat and stuff. No, I wasn't sweating from that. I was sweating because sometimes I tweet like really controversial things, and then like Dan Abramov schools me on Twitter and I get like 190 replies. So I tweeted that if we would start web development from scratch, like this is a highly hypothetical situation. It doesn't exist. We're not in it. And yet, 198 people managed to get offended by it. And I'm just saying, if we would start from scratch, right? And I only read like 10 of the replies, but I'm pretty sure the rest of the 180 are pretty nice comments about me, my mom. Like it's all positive things, right? And I don't want to defend this too much. I want to defend it a little bit just because it adds to my next point. So what I wanted to say, because you cannot explain this in 280 characters. Like I'm not putting that much thought into my tweets. I don't put much thought into my business emails. Why would I think about Twitter, right? So I wanted to say, like, if we would start from scratch and if we had to choose an approach for everything, like if these names didn't exist, like CSS and CSS and JS, and we would have to pick a way of styling. What would we pick? Something that we would describe it like this. Like you have an element, you describe the styles for that element only, and then that element has those styles. We don't have a name for it. It's not CSS and JS. It's something else. Or you have this huge document with like every style ever, and you just pray that this element will get the right styles. I think most people will choose the first one because it makes sense. The element should have that one style. Or REST versus GraphQL. Just forget about the names. If we would think about the approach of fetching data, would we want something that's not flexible as REST and we make like 15 different API calls just so we combine things together? Or do we want something flexible as GraphQL? Forget about the name. It's just something that's flexible. You can combine a bunch of things and get them in one request. People would choose. So you get my point. It's a highly hypothetical situation. People got offended. End of story. Why I'm putting this into my talk? Because before every talk that I give, I have this intro section where I'm just, some of the replies said that you're not, you don't have enough empathy towards junior developers and your behavior is like this or like that. And I felt a bit sad because before every talk that I do, I have this bit of intro where I'm talking like to everyone to like have more confidence in themselves, to talk at conferences, like apply at meetups and so on. So I felt bad because I'm really trying to empower junior and like people who are starting, and now with this tweet it turns, anyway, I'm not going to defend the tweet anymore. I decided to also include that intro section in this talk, just so I finish my point. So, the intro section was this. I have a problem with these three terms that we use, and I think they're really damaging like in our entire community and industry. So we have Ninja, Senior, and Rockstar developers. So let's dissect them one by one. So we have the first one, Ninja developer. Do you ever see a person on a roof coding Webpack configs and shit? No, like ninjas are doing ninja stuff. Forget about this one. Then we have senior developer. Like I'm coding for I don't know how many years and I don't know how to define this. For me, the only senior developer can be this guy. You cannot define it. And then the last one is rockstar developer. Like this hurts me. Hey, have you seen a rockstar with their like hair and guitar and shit? Like this is what a rockstar looks like and this is everything but a rockstar. All right? Except that guy who removed node modules, he's like the biggest rock star ever for me. Like he's my idol. And then last but not least, we have this stage. He rocked the stage. They're gonna say for us, he or she rocked the stage for a speaker. It's like pissing me off because the reality is this. He read his notes from made on a plane slides, trembling for 30 minutes while praying that people won't find out. Like that's me right now, all right? All I want to say is just have more confidence, apply at meetups, apply at conferences, and don't be afraid to speak out because we're not doing anything special right here. All of us are just like code monkeys trying to make weird libraries work together by writing shitty hacks. That's my intro. So, thank you. That being said, yo soy KITZE, Ninja. Nah, I'm kidding. I love making products. I love open sourcing libraries and not maintaining them later. And I had open source here, but it was not true. I had to change it to something else. Love teaching. I have my own workshop. It's called React Academy. You maybe know it. If you or your company, conference, whatever needs a workshop in one of these technologies, you can contact me here. But let's talk about you. So you finished with the conference. I mean, half of the people already left. And this is your vision. This was your vision of yourself after the conference. You thought, oh, we're going to relax. We're going to have some beers. Everything is going to be fine. But this is reality of you. And it's not because the weather is hot. The weather is crap today. I just landed today. Weather is crap. But you're sweating because in your mind, you're thinking about all the talks that happened today, right? Like every person was hyped about the technology they were presenting. So you heard like 2 talks about forms, but you're still doing forms with set state, and you're like, shit, we gotta refactor that, right? And then you heard a bunch of talks about styling, CSS and JS web components. You're like, shit, we're still using CSS. And then you talk about reason, but you don't even have TypeScript or Flow yet. So you may get this feeling of like, oh, I gotta call my manager, we gotta refactor everything because that guy on stage said, oh my God, we're so behind. So I wanna remove, like this talk is about removing that feeling, right? And this is you, you're sweating, and this is me, I'm not. Not because I don't have the feeling, because I didn't watch the talks, like I missed all the talks. Why? Because yesterday I learned that Warsaw has another airport. So I went to the other airport, missed my flight, and missed all the talks. If you want to hear the best airline story, just talk to me later. I don't want to say it here, but it's just the weirdest shit happens to me. Anyway, we're going to talk about FOMO. So what is FOMO? This is the feeling that every developer has in one way or another, and I just had to go to Wikipedia to see the definition. It's, fear of missing out is a persuasive apprehension, the others might be blah, 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 blah. So it's just a complex explanation, like you fear that your things are not good enough, other people have it better, the grass is greener on the other side, right? Everyone has their different version of FOMO. My strongest version of FOMO is actually not FOMO, it's FOMO something. So this explained is fear of mofos on Twitter tweeting dev stuff that you cannot find elsewhere. And I really hate this because I tried to go without Twitter for a week and I felt helpless. Like, where do people read information if you don't read it on Twitter? So I met a bunch of people at a conference and they're always like, most of them are like, I don't use Twitter. I'm like, how do you stay up to date? Because there's some hidden information there, like in a reply of a reply of a reply of someone, and then you're like, oh, this is the info I need. But if you try to search it on Reddit, on Medium, or somewhere else, you're not going to find that. So I always have that constant fear that while I'm sleeping, like someone is going to release something awesome and I'm missing out on it. So I'm trying to learn and train myself that, it's fine. You're going to be fine even if you miss out on that stuff. So I want to talk about some points of how can we fix this fear. Why do we even have FOMO? How can we dissect it? We doubt ourselves. We doubt our code. We focus on the wrong things. This is really important. We're bored out of our mind. Developers are so spoiled right now, and we're super bored sometimes, and we just like to invent problems to solve them. We obsess with the wrong metrics. Sometimes you can really see people pushing the limits and for no real reason. And we have a lot of free time, and we love to procrastinate. This is the sad truth about why do we have FOMO? Why are we reaching out for these things constantly? And I want you to raise your hand if you sometimes feel like this. You made something, it works, and you think it's awesome, but you're not sure if it's right. Right? You always have that feeling, man, but it works. It's nice, it's fast, but what will Michael Jackson think about it? Or what will Dan Abramov think? Why, we always think there's someone who knows what it's like to be right. But what is right and who is right? When you ask, like, who can be the person we can trust? Because our community is pretty crazy. Where you go on Twitter, where you go on Reddit, like, people are insane. Like, every day you're going to read, like, we're either on one side of the spectrum, like, higher order components suck. You cannot use, they suck. We decided that. Now, render props are everything, okay? No more higher, that's it. Why can't we just find the middle? Like, at my workshops, they're always asking me, so what can I choose? Just stay in the middle. I still use both of them. I still can argue about one of them, but as a community, we're always thinking there's right or wrong. We had the same thing about Redux. Like, ever since React started, like, was invented, people were like, we need Redux for everything. And suddenly, like, a couple of months ago, people are like, Redux is dead. We're going to replace it with context. And Redux is built with context, but they're going to replace it with context, okay? So I suggest just a healthy mix in here between these two. So it's a crazy community, right? And we all know that person who's always like, you haven't tried Redux Helicopter 7.9? You're like, whoa, you're not bleeding edge. And people who know me, you're going to be like, isn't that you? Aren't you a bit hypocritical? Because I sometimes tweet shit like this, like, CoffeeScript, and I'm inventing versions of libraries. People are like, wait, is that real? Or is it like, is that version real? Why are we not using like CoffeeScript 4 or something? And people have this fear. Even today, like Patrick gave this talk about ReasonML, I took a screenshot and I said it's ES9. And the guy was like, wait, what is this? What is this feature? I haven't started with ES7. So yeah, I'm sometimes like guilty of this, but that's why every time you read something, whether it's on Medium, whether it's like on Reddit, whether it's on Twitter, it doesn't matter. You gotta evaluate the context. You gotta ask, like, who is this guy? Like, I'm gonna tell you about myself, so you have more context about me, okay? So here's me. I work alone. I don't work for clients, so I'm not in touch with what's going on when you work for clients. I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. And I have all the time in the world to experiment, right? When you're just doing workshops, you have the rest of the time to experiment. And I'm going to make a Christmas tree out of this slide. So why would you trust a guy who does this on stage? You got to evaluate the person before you trust them, right? And yet, like, I have all of these things. Oh, shit, we're going to go again. Okay, the fade animations. All right. Yeah. So I have all of these things. I have all the free time. I can experiment with what I want. But I still don't blindly jump on the latest bleeding edge tech all the time. I'm not doing that. If you don't believe me, here's some popular technologies that I still haven't tried. Like most of the React developers are using React Router 4. I'm not. And I don't care about the API because I built something that works for me. Reach Router, whatever comes out, like ReasonML, I know it's awesome, but is it going to help me in the goals that I have? No. So I'm just going to sit on the sides and just observe how everything evolves before I jump into any of these technologies. CSS Grid, yes, it's helpful. I know a couple of lines, and it's enough for what I want to do, but I don't want to dive and like learn the entire syntax and stuff. So I'm not jumping to the latest and greatest. So let's talk about FOMO, NOMO. Let's kill this FOMO. Let me give you some helpful tips about how you can kill it and feel more confident if you're not using React Router Fire, if you're not jumping to the latest router or library or whatever. You got to recognize the breaking points. Like, I listed all the technologies I jumped from and to, and I always found that I had a breaking point where I was like, fuck it, now is the time. And a lot of people don't have this breaking point, and since the moment something else is announced, the fear kicks in. And sometimes I also have it, but I'm trying to control it. Like, there was this documentation library, docs.io or something, and it looked amazing, right? And my brain, I don't have anything to document right now, but my brain is, shit, I'm going to document my dog because this looks like super nice. It has nice styling and stuff. So we got to remove that thought. So how do you find out the breaking points? You got to figure out how easy is the transition from one thing to another. Is now the right time? Is it Friday and it's 4 p.m. and I'm trying to upgrade Webpack? Don't do that. Or do I really need it? Or am I just bored out of my mind? So let's see a couple of my transitions. I moved from floats to Flexbox like everyone else. It was easy, but you just cannot remember that syntax, right? I'm still Googling the Flexbox syntax. It was the right time, and I really needed it because I had to center things like in vertical and horizontal. So that transition had to happen. It was not optional. Angular to React. Like, I knew that React existed maybe for an year. I knew about the technology. I knew how it works. And people around me, like colleagues and stuff, were jumping to React and telling me, dude, this combined with Flow is killing it. Like, I know. Right now, I'm focused on our app, I'm focused on the users, I know. And the transition, like slowly, Angular released like 1.3, they had components, and then we have a breaking point where we had to develop 2 apps for mobile and for desktop, and I said, maybe instead of jumping to Angular 2, I should look at React, but it was really the right time. If I got hyped because a colleague said, hey man, React is killing it, I would have made a wrong decision because it was the wrong time for me to make that transition. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I had React. And every day when I was using templates and I wanted Lodash in those templates, I was like, damn, I would really like for this to be JavaScript. So you gotta know that there's an alternative somewhere in your mind, but just don't jump too early into that alternative. Or REST to GraphQL. So I was going crazy with REST. I was using it for a long time, also Firebase and similar things. But whenever I needed to combine a few things like categories and a person and a user and stuff, I was like, where do I start? Do I have this first and then in the promise? So I always had that. I was shipping products, I was doing stuff, but I knew that something wasn't right in the data fetching world. And I knew that this thing existed for a long time, but I jumped on it at the right time. Whenever we decided to refactor our backend, some of our backend engineers said, hey, we got to rewrite this, and I suggested, let's actually try GraphQL, learn GraphQL, I think it's going to be better. But it was really the breaking point, it was the right time. Or have Gatsby and React Static. I know a lot of people don't do this migration. Usually people are jumping to Gatsby. But I had like the landing page for React Academy and all the workshops and stuff. I was listing them here. And anytime I wanted to add a new field to my backend, then in Gatsby I have to change a couple of GraphQL queries. So the entire GraphQL massaging of data doesn't make much sense to me. Although it's really popular, it has more stars, everyone is using it, everyone is loving it, they have an investment and whatever. I said, every time I want to change something in a workshop, I got to change this field. And I got to the breaking point. Whenever I wanted to work on my landing page, the thought of just messing with GraphQL queries and Gatsby was just killing me. So that was the breaking point. I said, if I want to be productive and quickly change my landing page, I got to switch to something else. And it was an easy transition because you just change a couple of files. Most of your app stays the same. And we have the largest transition of them all. Like a jump from Sass to Aphrodite, from Aphrodite to style components, glamorous. But this was really slow in JavaScript terms, slow. So whenever I was writing Sass and BAM, I was realizing, hey, I'm just babysitting this CSS to turn it into something that I can use, right? So I learned a lot of mixins, I learned a lot of function, I learned the entire Sass syntax. Like I basically learned a new language just to have styles. So when I saw the README for Aphrodite, I was like, this is what I need. Not now, but I need it at some point. I need to migrate. When I migrated to that, like Max Stoiber came up with, and Glenn Madden with style components, and I was like, you guys are fucking crazy. No one is going to write components like this. And he said, just try it. Just try, put an app on the side, refactor it quickly, and see if this makes sense. It made sense. I started using them in one of my apps, and then you have all the template literals, and you want to have a function inside of them, inside of a function, inside of a and it gets really messy. I wanted objects. So I knew I wanted objects. Not right now, but at some point I wanted them. So when I saw something like Glamorous, when everything is objects, I was like, this is what I need. And I was sticking to Glamorous for the longest time. Like, I don't care about Emotion and the other libraries that came out until they said, hey, we're not going to maintain Glamorous anymore. And literally, Kenzie Dodd said, guys, you better migrate to Emotion. It's just a couple of minutes. You just replace the import with the other import. And then I did it. But it was all, if I would jump to every new CSS and JS library, I would jump like every week. Every week, you have to jump to the next one because they're just popping up. So yeah, sleep on it a little bit before you go like grocery shopping for all of these libraries. And you're like, oh, I need this, install that. I heard about a guy, there was an article about a guy who was like a shopping addict and he has to freeze his credit cards. But freeze them like literally in the freezer. So every time he goes out, he wants to shop for something, and he's like, oh, now I gotta go home, it needs to unfreeze, and if I still want it the other day, I'm gonna go and buy the thing. Most of the time, he never bought anything because it was just impulse buy. So whenever you have this impulse NPM installs, just sleep on it, and this is my suggestion, like the developer version of this freezing, you just let other developers figure it out. Usually they'll fix bugs. They're gonna come with an abstraction on top of the thing that you wanna install, and then you don't have to do all the heavy lifting there. And then we have the other spectrum of this is don't get too comfortable either, okay? But I wanna stress this point, like stop learning just in case stuff. There are so many developers in our community, and I'm involved both in Reddit and both on Twitter, and I see all the time this just in case stuff. So let me just learn service workers just in case. Let me learn React Native just in case. And a lot of developers have this just in case knowledge that's not going to be relevant in 3 months. So why are you just piling stuff in your brain when it's not going to be relevant? You got to keep these alternatives somewhere in the back of your head. So you got to have them like I know that thing is, like, there was this awesome thing for patching NPM libraries, and I knew it existed. I didn't use it right away. But when I needed to patch a bug in a library, I was like, okay, I know that exists. I'm going to Google it, find it, learn how it works, and then incorporate it in my project. So just sleep on your decisions, and what I'm not saying is you shouldn't not learn anything new. Like, you got to learn all the time. You make sure that you're listening to podcasts, reading books, doing all that stuff, but do it in the freedom, not when you're at work or not when you have actually time to be in front of a laptop and ship valuable stuff. Don't waste that time to read on something really weird that you might need one day. That's the point that I make. Next point, next advice is less abstractions. Boy, do we love abstractions. Like, we as developers, we're in love with them. So this is a brain, like, these are real medical images. This is our brain on cocaine. This is our brain on sugar. It's even worse, seriously. And this is our brain when it recognizes the opportunity for an abstraction in some code. Like, I can make this a function. I can make this a class, right? I'm so smart because I can move these lines in a new file. So we always this is not a medical image. It's just good Photoshop from me. So whenever you see, why am I connecting the abstractions with the FOMO? Because every time you repeat a couple of things, you're like, maybe someone wrote a library for this. And if your thinking process is all the time in that cycle, why am I doing this? Maybe there's a library. Why am I doing this? Like, all the time, you would just shop and hunt for all the libraries instead of just finishing the tasks that you got to finish. So every time you see something that's repeating, my advice is really simple. Just copy-paste it. Copy-paste it 2 times, 3 times, 5 times until you really see that it's an abstraction. Otherwise, the wrong abstraction, I think, is the worst problem you can have. You make the wrong abstraction, and then you implemented it 5 places, and you're like, shit, 3 of these use cases are not valid. I got to revert it. And that's where we lose time, just going back and forth between these abstractions. So these are some things that you shouldn't focus on. And what can you focus on instead? Like, I'm seeing that a lot of developers are not focusing on the right thing, so I'm just going to give you suggestions. Remember these guys? You're writing an app for them. We're forgetting this in our day-to-day life when we're coding. We're forgetting about our users. Because why? We love to entertain ourselves during work by doing like positive procrastination. So we're just, I'm just going to implement this. But you don't get it. That's entertainment for you. You're not enhancing the user experience. You're just entertaining yourself. So at the end of the day, when you do a login form with Redux Saga and Redux Form, and at the end you spend 8 hours on this thing and you feel like, fuck, I'm smarter than everyone. And then your user is going to say, I can log in. That's nice. Like, you're not enhancing his experience in any way, literally in any way. So think about the users, think about enhancing the user experience. What else can we focus on? Oh, it's going to get weird now. Let's see what developers want to talk about. What do we want to discuss? We want to discuss our themes, our fonts. How do you make your folders? I nest mine in a component. No, I have like a tree of components. We love to discuss this shit. We would love to discuss controversial tweets, tabs versus spaces, Webpack is hard, framework, blah, blah, blah. We would discuss all of these things, like night and day, right outside at the pool. But I'm going to mention something that you should focus on, and it's about to get like really uncomfortable here. I'm going to mention the M word. Ooh. I have this slide twice because it's the M word. It's money. We don't want to focus on that. Like, seriously, we would discuss anything else except our users, user experience, and money. If you don't want to focus on your users, just let's talk about this part, because I think a lot of people in our industry have it wrong. So by focusing on this, maybe it's going to take your brain off the stuff that you're doing every day, and it's not really relevant. So this was like 2 weeks ago. It was a conference, Web Summer Camp, and they said, hey, after these talks, we're going to have like a panel discussion, and there are going to be tables, so do you want to lead the table about freelancing? And I was like, sure, I would love to see what other developers think about money. It's going to be awesome. So it was in one hotel, but the panel discussions were in another hotel. So I'm running there like sweaty and excited, like I'm going to see all of these people, and I end up in... Like, seriously, if you see the PHP table, the some Laravel framework table, they were full. Nobody wanted to discuss freelancing and money. It was weird, but here's some newsflash for you. Like, this theme, VS Code material, it's not going to pay your rent. So you got to discuss this thing no matter how uncomfortable they are. Because I think it's never been easier to make money as a developer. Like, seriously, if you're a doctor or a surgeon, spend like 15 years like improving yourself until you see your first money. Like, you got to ask your mom and your dad for money until you're studying, and then you make some money, And there's a guy who's going to learn like React or Vue, and in 3 months he's going to do Tinder for cats and make more money than a surgeon. More money than a freaking surgeon. And I think it's amazing, but it's not gonna last long, trust me. Like, we're in the best time right now. It's easy to scaffold the front end, a back end, a database. Like, everything is so easy. You hook it up to CI, you have free hosting. Like, everything is at an amazing place for you to just focus and to do money. But there's wrong way to do it and a right way to do it. So here's the wrong way. Like, this is a quote from an ex-colleague, I swear to God. So he said, this summer I'm going to read a couple of books and then, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. Like, whenever you have thoughts that you're going to upgrade your technical skills and somehow your salary or your money is going to raise, that's not going to happen. So what if I told you your technical skills have nothing to do with the amount of money you're making? Junior, senior, forget about that stuff. It's everything about how much you value yourself and how much you think of you. It's not about if you know all of this technical. You can be super smart and make a like shitty amount of money if you don't know how much others are making around you, right? So I'm going to give you an example of a guy I respect really much. It's the guy from Nomadlist. It's Peter Levels. And that guy taught himself PHP and jQuery, nothing else. He started coding at the same time with his brother. And he said, bro, I need to learn coding. I have this Excel spreadsheet. I want to convert it to a platform called Nomadlist. I want to learn PHP and jQuery quickly just to get things rolling. And his brother was like, I'm going to learn Meteor. And after a couple of months, this guy had Nomadlist. He started getting customers and money. Maybe the code was crap. I don't care. And his brother knew Meteor. So who won there? Like, right now, he's a single developer on this. He doesn't have employees. He has Nomadlist, a couple of other websites. People are criticizing him about his code, about, oh, that looks like crap. Why are you using a framework? You cannot use PHP like that. You cannot use jQuery. The guy is making more than 50,000 euros per month alone with PHP and jQuery. Like, at this point, you close your laptops, you go into gardening or something because you're I have mad respect for the guy because we're talking about these things, we're not talking about what really matters. So, back to my previous point, it's not going to be that easy in the upcoming years. So, some things that we were doing not so long ago, like, in order to have a website a couple of years ago, you had to know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy who can make you a website. Nowadays, someone needs and it's going to cost like $2,000, $5,000. And that guy made a lot of money. He doesn't have the opportunity anymore because now you can just jump on Wix, on Webflow, or Card, or some platform, drag and drop, you have a landing page. If you think that's not happening to backend and to frontend and to whatever we're working on, you're really wrong. You're wrong. This job existed, I don't know how many years ago in factories. They didn't have radios, so they had a guy reading a newspaper. It was crap. Like, you want him to pause. You're like, John, pause. I need to go to the toilet. He doesn't pause. So they lived in a crappy situation where they had people reading newspaper, but it was boring. That guy thought that his job was secure because he didn't have the internet. He didn't know what's going to happen. He didn't have the radio. He didn't have the knowledge to know that the radio is going to happen. And we have the knowledge, like we have the internet. We know that there's going to be this AI machine learning revolution that's just going to wipe whatever we're doing right now for money. Oh, what did you work on today? I worked on the CSS and the header. No. Like, you're not going to have the entire day to like show off your CSS skills because it's going to be much more automatic. So if you're not believing me, you're like, oh, that's far away. Here's a recent video from Microsoft. So they have like AI and visual recognition for like, you can sketch little notes and it's going to recognize what it should put there in the mockup. So yeah, it's creepy. It's getting there. Trust me, it's getting there really fast. Like, and it's Microsoft, so they're going to throw in Clippy and you can ask Clippy things. And then Clippy is going to have your job, right? I mean, okay, maybe not Clippy, but here's a reality. You can have an Amazon Echo while you're coding, or the manager can have an Echo while he's coding, and he can be like, so suggest me a couple of responsive menu styles. She's like, ding, 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 here they are, and he got a header instead of your 8 hours. Or he can be like, Alexa, move that 3 pixels to the right. No, 5 pixels to the left. No, and the difference is, unlike your designer, Alexa is not going to bitch. She's going to be, yes, sir, we're going to move those pixels to the right, right? So your job is, so enjoy this time while we have it, unless you want to work on legacy systems. So seriously, do you know who are the highest paid developers right now in the entire industry, not just front-end? People who work on legacy systems. We have like Pascal, COBOL, Angular 1, all of these legacy systems, right? But but seriously, Nacho from the conference, he told me about this example. I laughed my ass off. There's a company called Cobble Cowboys, and their tagline is "Not our first rodeo," probably because they're coding for 150 years, and they have a ton of experience. And it got me interested, so I had to click meet the company. I was like, I bet these dudes are old, and there they are, the senior developers. But these guys rock, like they seriously rock. Probably there's a junior developer joining them this week, and it's this guy. But on a serious note, can you imagine how much money they're making because they're working on stuff we don't want to work on? You're like, oh, that's old, right? And can you imagine the perks and benefits that they get? Like you brag with your PlayStation and your football table. These guys probably get their blood changed every couple of weeks just because they cannot afford to lose one. If the backend goes away, the company is done. But a more serious example that I can show you a story that I know about is seriously Angular 1 and Asia and China and all of these other countries. Like we're joking about, Angular. So I knew this dude who was working on Angular courses and workshops and materials. Like he's really, really good. But he's also a really smart dude. And whenever like the transition happened and a lot of developers jumped to React instead of Angular 2, I was like, dude, why are you sticking to this? Like what's the value for you? And he said, do you know how big still, like in Asia and in China, Angular 1 is like stupid amount of companies still have it because they cannot migrate their huge systems to something new. So they need support, they need courses, they need lectures, they need some material. And he's going all in on that, although he knows there might be something better for him. But if his focus right now is making money and like providing educational material, he's just killing it there in Asia and in all the other markets. And I kind of didn't believe him. He sent me some screenshot of the amount of money he makes. And not a screenshot. He just texted me, do you know how much I made in 20 days? And I'm like, no fucking way. Then he posted pictures of a couple of sports cars. And the dude is really serious. But I know Redux Saga, and here's what I travel with. I don't have sports cars. Like, so I feel superior. I know the latest and greatest. So it's all about the right focus. So yeah, if this talk can be a little bit like, let's say, not for everyone, because you might be in a company, you might be super satisfied with what you're doing, you might love wasting 8 hours of your day on your VS Code team or whatever, but it's also what I want to send this message to is to developers who just want to branch out. They want to stick out a little bit, go out of their way, like have a name or a brand or something to them, like be the X guy, like find your niche, be the, I don't know, MobX guy, the Redux guy, the guys who post shit on Twitter, be some guy, right? And then stick to it. And part 3 is, I see a lot of developers, they're really good at what they're doing. Like you would see someone is an expert in TypeScript, you would see someone is expert in it, and then they forget about point 3. And they're happy with, oh, I'm just an expert in that. And then they're so close to making point 3 and just making the thing profitable. So yeah, let's summarize. I had a couple of points here. Stop seeking external approval. Stop seeking answers in other people's projects. And stop feeling insecure about your code because probably nobody knows what they're actually doing. Less abstractions, more copy-paste. I cannot recognize the breaking points. This is really important before you jump from one thing to another thing. Remember that FOMO, that fear you have that others have it better, that the grass is greener on the other side, is just a side effect of you having the wrong priorities. So you gotta shift your focus, and if you don't want to focus on other things, just focus on your users, focus on your money. It doesn't matter. It's going to be better than the time you spend on just fear of missing out. And you'll be fine without Redux Helicopter 7.4. Trust me, it's going to be good. So, muchas gracias. You can find more info about me here. Thank you. Thanks. Sorry? No, you can, yeah. Do you not have any questions before, because we want to get beer by the beach or the pool? No, seriously, I think if you have any questions, just grab me outside. If you want to hear the airplane story is the best, then we can proceed with the raffle and stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, KITZE.